No, it's past Maurice Hearst because the next pick was a punter, Florida.
Gator? So that's where it ends?
No.
Is that
Never
where it
trust
ends?
a Gator?
I mean, I'm not going to say that's where it ends, but, I mean, this dude was awesome.
Nah, let's go to the next.
He was awesome.
Nah.
You don't want to talk about the awesome punter?
No. Well, Marquette King's not there anymore. I'm going to miss the Dougies and the dances.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Did he butt heads with Gruden? Was it an issue?
I think it was. I think it was beef.
Yeah,
I think it was beef.
And then there was word that he like
Bro, you're a punter, bro.
He had a
Come on.
he had a fake punt. He called his own fake punt. Allegedly. This is what I read. This is what I read.
Swag.
It obviously didn't work out.
So this new punter, you say he's pretty good, right?
Yeah, no, I think he's the best in the country.
Okay.
Okay, we flip in field position. We down and you inside the one.
That's important. Third phase of the game.
Yes, of course.
Is in the
CouchPotatoGM.com is the website. Couch Potato General Manager is the YouTube channel. You know it because you're on it. Go ahead and stop, pause, hit that subscribe button.
There you go.
Now we can start things off, man. We talking Raiders.
Hashtag Raiders Nation.
Is that what it is?
Hashtag Black Hole.
That's what it is?
Nah, we're going Raiders Nation.
Oh, okay. Let us know what it is. Hashtag. Recap. Draft recap, man. Raiders, Jon Gruden. 10 plus mil a year? It's a lot.
Paid,
man. I'm a Bucs fan, so I'm familiar with Jon Gruden.
What do you think about the hire?
Do you like it? Do you love it? Jon Gruden, Chucky, he's back?
Can I tell you how I feel about it?
How do you feel?
I'm glad you took him off the Bucs' hands. Thank you.
I mean, he wasn't coaching y'all, though.
No, but he was almost a coach, according to reports.
Really?
But the money was too much for the Glazers. So thank you.
So the Raiders saved the Bucs from themselves.
Yes. What's allegedly to reports? What's Mark Davis?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark Davis. Thank you.
All right.
Round one. It originally was the 10th pick overall. Then they traded it to the Cardinals, where they got 2 third-round picks, right?
Yep.
And moved down to 15. Arizona got Josh Rosen. Raiders got Kolton Miller, UCLA. He was a riser. I didn't know anything about the guy. People were talking about him on Twitter. He came out of nowhere as far as I was concerned. They were talking about him on Twitter, and they were talking about essentially his measurables. And so for me, when you talk about a player's measurables, I got to go take a peek at them to see, you know, where I think they may go and how I feel about them. Wasn't impressed. Wasn't impressed at all. I like his measurables.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's towering.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
But I'm just not impressed.
Yeah. I watched him on tape. He was one of my most overrated offensive linemen in the draft.
Damn.
I didn't think he was a first-round talent. Like you said, I think they were looking at McGlinchey right there at 10. 49ers got him at 9. You know, across the bay. You know, those guys.
Gotta make a move.
And they traded down.
Yeah,
and they wanted the offensive tackle. That right tackle has been a thorn in their side last couple of seasons. So they went and got the best one on their board, which is Kolton Miller. I have issues with that, man. Leverage. You know, he's always high. He's an up-high guy. Technique, especially in the pass protection, I don't think he has it right away. I don't think he should start right away, but I don't think they have a choice unless they're going to start the other guy we're going to talk about later.
Didn't he have a little nastiness to him though? When he
in the run game, he's pretty good in the run game.
Okay.
He's pretty good in the run game. He's moving. He can move to the second level. He's athletic. He's nice in that area.
I just didn't want to kill him. So that's our positive on Kolton Miller. Had the negative.
You know, I guess my thought process is, because I don't disagree with you guys. I think from a pass pro perspective, all those P's.
Pass pro perspective. It's alliteration.
Yeah.
That's a
good
nice.
word.
You know what? It was crazy. I was helping my little one do her thing, and I seen alliteration in this little, what was it, the 4th, 3rd grade book? Yeah, I said alliteration. I started reading the sentence. Okay, I'm on it. Come on, we gonna
educated.
We gonna work on that tomorrow.
I'm educated.
You know.
I think I think what Gruden and company saw, because I mean, let's face it, I don't know what the dynamic looks like, but because they're paying Gruden as much as he is, I'm sure he has a lot to say about what's going on in that Oakland war room. I think the thought process is that, to your point, they love the measurables. They love what you can't teach, the arm length, the size.
Yeah.
The fact that he does have some nastiness to him. We've talked about it before. We've alluded to it. That proximity to the prospect, I think, makes a difference. West Coast. Your scouts are typically based out of that particular area, so you get a feel for them. When you think about UCLA, you think about Josh Rosen. He got beat up. He got beat up a lot.
Yeah, he did.
You know what I mean? Here's I think the silver lining, because again, you know, we prefer guys who are more polished at that particular position if you're going to take them that early. But I think they can coach this guy up. I think they think, you mentioned that he shouldn't start right away. I tend to agree with that. Again, we're not sure that they have that luxury. Mm-hmm. I think this guy needs some coaching. You know, I think there's some limitations, like you mentioned, in terms of the leverage. There's some stiffness in his hips. Doesn't mean he's a bad athlete, because he can get to the second level. He's got a good punch. Yeah. He had a good initial punch. But guys who can turn, you know, speed to power and get under those pads, him at 6'9" and not having great bend and pliability, I think will give him some trouble. I think moving forward he's going to be fine. I think he has a lot of work to do in terms of pass protection. I agree with you. I don't think he was a first-round prospect, but because of the ceiling, he went that high. And it's going to come down to coach.
You get in trouble with ceiling, man.
I agree, especially at that particular position. You know what I mean?
I got to imagine that not only Jon Gruden stood on the table, but I got to imagine Tom Cable busted in a room, you know, busted the door down, came in there and said, go get my guy, because he really, really loved Miller, you know, and so.
I think it's a mentality thing, too. I think it's a mentality thing, too. I think Miller and the other tackle that he drafted that we'll get to, they share a lot of similarities in terms of their mental makeup as well as their physical build, and I think it fits the mold of whatever Oakland is trying to do long term at the position. We expect Donald Penn to man the left tackle, but we don't know if that's going to happen beyond the 2018 season. So they were looking for a specific type of player in those players, including Kolton Miller.
Round 2. They went out and they got P.J. Hall, defensive tackle, Sam Houston State. Is that right?
Yes, Sam Houston. Small school guy. Small school, right?
Yeah, small. I'm going to let you guys take this.
This guy broke the FCS record for most tackles for loss, so he knows how to get upfield. He knows how to get into the backfield. Raiders Nation, I know you've seen the player, you've seen the school. You're like, who is this guy? This guy's a good player. Now, I know the Falcons was targeting him. The Falcons was the next pick after the Raiders, and they were looking at P.J. Hall. So I think you got yourself a great player in P.J. Hall that's going to come in right away. Khalil Mack on that defensive line. They drafted another guy we're going to talk about later. So you guys are building. They drafted 2 other guys we're going to talk about later. So they really went trenches. And I think P.J. Hall is going to be a force for the Oakland Raiders.
So, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the point I wanted to bring up. You mentioned trenches. They really addressed the offensive and defensive lines. And again, we're not thrilled with the selection of Kolton Miller where he was picked, per se. But it's hard to knock addressing the most important position groups on the field. It's hard to knock that. As for P.J. Hall, you mentioned all the tackles for loss, so he's not just a disruptor. He's making plays in the backfield. It's the quickness. You mentioned that he you mentioned that he models this game after Aaron Dhamma. You know how I love Aaron Dhamma. That's the guy. He had over 40 sacks over his career too. Crazy, Drew, you always talk about when you're evaluating talent at the lower levels, at the FCS level. Did he dominate? Yeah. This guy absolutely dominated. He absolutely dominated. And the age-old adage is, does it matter where you play? No. They will find you. If you have the skills and you have the talent, they will find you. I think later in his career, they kind of played him on the edge a little bit more, and he belongs inside. He's a three technique. Yep. He is a 3 technique. And there weren't very many of them in this class, and I think they got probably the 2 best.
2 best, right?
Yeah.
Potentially. Round 3, they went out and they got Brandon Parker, tackle, North Carolina A&T. You know, I'm not going to talk about the player so much. I'm going to talk about this is when the picture for the Raiders started to round. It started to make sense. Let me just go there. You go out and you get a Kolton Miller. I know a lot of Raiders fans were kind of, man, then we're going to trade it back. We could have got Derwin James. We could have got this guy, that guy. But now you understand when you talk about the size, the physicality, the guys they went out and got, the picture's getting brighter. Now you've anchored, you've anchored your left and you've anchored your right with these 2 players, and it makes sense. It makes sense. Again, I'm gonna go back to what you said. where you got Kolton Miller, I'm not that happy about it. It went high, but it makes sense.
Yep.
It's the pictures coming together.
He a lot of success at a HBCU. I think North Carolina A&T has been dominant recently. Frankly, a lot of the same traits that you see in Kolton Miller in terms of the good and the bad you see in Parker. They're very similar players in that way, and it just goes back to my point that Tom Cable, Jon Gruden, they decided this is what we're looking for. You know, in our offense, this is the type of player we're looking for. Again, good athletes, heavy initial punch with the hands. May struggle again with guys who can really use their leverage to their advantage. Yeah. You know, in terms of resetting their hands, may struggle a little bit there. You know, guys when they're playing against defensive ends with really violent hands and good hand usage themselves, they may be overwhelmed by those guys. But moving forward, going to be just fine. Going to be ready to go now. Yeah. And I think there's a certain level of tenacity, a certain level of nastiness that these guys possess that I think they want to bully the opposition. I think they want to be bigger and stronger than the opposition. The question ultimately comes down to when they have to take a more of a defensive stance, which is pass protection. Yeah. How are they going to hold up? Yeah. And you know, you mentioned locking down the left and the right side of the offensive lines. This could very well be, that may be the case. Ideally, that's the case. But this could very well be, we're going to throw whatever we can up against the wall and see what sticks at that right tackle.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask, man. Both of these guys, Kolton Miller, Brandon Parker, they're raw. You know, they don't have the pass pro, NFL level pass protection. They're both nasty. And it's a lot of competition over there. So who do we think gets that spot, man? I know Kolton Miller's the favorite because he's the first round pick, but is there a scenario where Brandon Parker becomes that guy over Kolton Miller? And then what happens to Donald Penn also?
I mean, he's 50 picks ahead of Brandon Parker and Kolton Miller, so obviously he's gonna get more of a chance to get it done.
First opportunity.
You know what I mean? So, and he's gonna have the bigger, what would you call it? The bigger margin of error, I guess.
Leash.
Leash. There we go. The bigger leash in terms of getting that job. So I would imagine Kolton Miller is probably going to be the one, but it wouldn't surprise me if Brandon Parker is the guy. And then you talk about pass pro. You're in a West Coast offense. It makes things a little bit easier. You ain't got to hang in there for too long. So that should help things.
I think you bring up some good points there, Drew, in terms of the offense and what it'll be asked to do. It's going to be a timing rhythm offense. We expect the ball to come out quickly. So you're not necessarily asking those behemoths to hang in there as long as you typically would see in a more vertical passing attack. That being said, as far as who would get the edge, I think Kolton Miller has to poop himself in order to lose a spot. You got to poop himself. Either that or an injury. Yeah. To me, those are the scenarios where Parker gets in. Because to your point, they're both raw. They're both raw. But again, as far as Donald Penn is concerned, long term, I actually think it depends on how they equip themselves.
Yeah. How well they play.
If Kolton Miller, let's say Kolton Miller gets the nod at right tackle to start week 1, and he acquits himself well, Donald Penn's not going to be there next year. He's not.
Definitely. Casualty.
He's going to be a casualty. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And then they'll be back, assuming hopefully Parker can take over their right tackle position, or maybe Parker ends up at left tackle and Miller stays at right tackle. Whatever the case may be, they're going to have a hole at one of the tackle positions. So I think they're okay with that. I think what they are trying to avoid is being in a situation where neither one is ready to go. You understand what I'm saying? Come 2019. So.
And an interesting stat, man, the Oakland Raiders ranked 31st with yards before contact, and they ranked 1st with yards after contact.
What does that mean?
Beast mode, number 1. That's what it means.
That's what that means.
But
penetration.
Also penetration. So I think they drafted these tackles more for the run game. They want to get their run game going, and that's why they drafted these two big behemoths that could help them in the run game.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a physical bunch because over the last several years, not so much last year, they struggled to protect and open up running lanes last year. But previously, as Oakland was starting to kind of gain steam and ultimately made a playoff appearance in X amount of years, their first one in X amount of years, that offensive line was dominant in terms of pass protection.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No one got close to Derek Carr.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they looked at the film and said, you know what, we're going to be okay there, particularly from the interior, and that's what you're concerned about the most when it comes to a pass rush. Is the pass rush right up into the lap? When you got Osmelli, Hudson, and Gabe Jackson, you're good there. You're good there. They want to get, to your point, Hedley, they want to get moving forward and get more physical on the edges.
Round 3, man. They went out and they got the guy that was supposed to be maybe the #1 defensive lineman coming out. And Arden Key from LSU, man, defensive end, man. This guy was, I mean, you turn on tape. I remember him as a freshman, man. Remember watching Patrick Mahomes last year?
The 2016 Arden Key tape.
Like, they can't block him, bro. He's unblockable.
This guy's a monster.
I mean, what was he, number 47?
48?
49.
49. Damn, I'm sorry. I forgot the number, man. 40-something.
Yeah.
I mean, that burst up and around the corner is like he's running against air. Like, it's just nobody there, man. It's crazy, man. You know, the only issue, obviously, is you know, obviously the character, not the character, but the red flags off the field. Not so much character, but
football character.
Football character. We'll go football character.
Yeah.
You know, he was a little light in the pants. Wanted to add some weight. You know, so hopefully, you know, he put on a couple of pounds because I don't think he can compete at that size.
Did he put on weight?
That was
he was light. Then he put on a lot of weight.
Too much weight.
Too much.
No, I was saying going
down
into
a little more.
Yeah, okay. So weight management.
It's just about we've seen people question the work ethic.
Yes.
Is he gonna get in the film room? Is he gonna work hard now that he's making money? Is he you know, that's why he was a first round talent.
Oh yeah.
Dropped to the 3rd round because of these question marks. So what do you think, man?
His teammate had a similar, not the weight, but there were question marks. His new teammate in Bruce Irvin, had a kind of a similar ascension from the collegiate ranks at West Virginia and then ultimately going to Seattle, right? Kind of a tweener, you know, really did a great job of getting after the passer, proven pass rusher. There was some off the field concerns, whatever the case may be. In addition, he was a bit of a tweener. He fell to round 3, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I mean? And Arden Key kind of has that same track. The thing about it is, Arden Key was better than Bruce Irvin.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? I don't think people really appreciate Bruce Irvin in West Virginia because it's been a while.
Yeah.
I don't think people appreciate him. Like, he was really good.
Yeah.
He was really good. Bruce Irvin had first round talent.
Yeah.
Made no mistake about it. Arden Key had top 5 talent. Top 10 talent. You understand what I'm saying? So wasn't very effective this past season. I hope somebody can light a fire under him because and you hate to say that. You hate to say that you want these guys to be self-motivated and want to push themselves, but maybe being around a Khalil Mack and a Bruce Irvin, a guy who kind of went through some trials and tribulations, you know, take them under their wing. Now we're talking about, you know, we talked about PJ Hall. We're about to talk about another interior rusher. We already know what they have outside on the edges. You add an Arden Key to that mix. Oakland has the makings of a serious pass rush. Like a potentially dominant pass rush. So I hope he has his head on straight. I really do.
And can we go ahead and just pay Khalil Mack? Can we do that? Can somebody get Reggie on the phone? Or is it Jon Gruden or whoever the hell it is? Come on now. What are we doing?
He'll get paid.
He'll get paid?
Definitely.
He better get paid.
Round 4, they went out and they got Hedley's cornerback. You did a prospect of the week on this guy.
Prospect of the week, ConsultatoGM.com. Nick Nelson, Wisconsin, transfer from Hawaii. The meniscus injury really derailed his stock. I thought he was like a day 2 guy. It's just the movements, man. The short to intermediate movements, how he positions his body, how he flips his hips. It was top of the line. He averaged 2nd best in the draft class, 34.2 completion percentage. Against. So he wasn't giving up passes. The issue with Nick Nelson is the long speed. You know, he had a lot of holding penalties because he didn't want to get beat deep. So with this meniscus injury, with the issues with his long speed, like how does he come back? How does he come back now? So we'll see on Nick Nelson. That's a we'll see. That's he might redshirt the 2018 season.
The thing about Nelson is, unfortunately, the Raiders have had a string of injuries to their young players in their secondary. They need these guys on the field. I like Nick Nelson. I like what he brings in terms of the instincts and to your point, the footwork, the way he positions himself, ball skills. He has that. Long speed is a bit of a concern, but the way you mitigate that, you can't remedy it, but the way you mitigate that is obviously with excellent technique and systemically. You know what I mean? So you can kind of work around that, assuming he has everything else in spades. But Gary Conley's got to stay healthy. Yep. You know, Obi Melifonwu's got to get on the field. Like they need these guys. These guys they put you know, high draft capital, first and second round picks. Not Nelson in that case, but they put substantial draft capital over the last several seasons into their secondary, and they've gotten nothing in terms of a return yet. So
and they just picked up Rashawn Melvin from the Colts,
which I really like that. I really like that pick. It's not one that's going to grab very many headlines, but I think Raider Nation should understand that this guy really flourished on a bad team. You know, the Colts defense was on the field a lot, and they oftentimes were playing, you know, in really unfavorable situations where there's not a whole lot going on. There wasn't much of a pass rush at all, and he really showed something this past season. So I think that could be a really sneaky acquisition. But like I said, they got to get some of these young guys that they've drafted recently on the field to even make the Rashad Melvin signing worthwhile. You know what I mean? Because teams will just go away from Melvin. You know what I'm saying? He could be playing great, and they'll just go away from him because there's nobody else. Yeah.
All right, man. This is the guy right here, round 5. Maurice Hearst, defensive tackle, Michigan, was said to be the best D tackle coming out, the number 1-3 technique coming out. But there was issues. He fell because of a cardiovascular heart condition.
Irregular
heartbeat.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of know some teams where it is. Some teams just completely took him off their board. So. I mean, he's got a hell of a burst. When you talk about the 3 techniques, the other one that comes to mind is Tavon Bryant from Florida.
Gator.
The difference between these 2 players, I would say, Maurice is less violent, quicker, and has his eyes up, and he's looking for the football.
He's more calculated.
Yes,
than Bryant.
there we go.
He's more calculated.
That's a good word. Yeah. That's a good word.
Yeah, he's got a plan.
He's got a plan. I'm getting to the backfield. I know where the ball is. I'm keeping my eyes up, you know, as opposed to Bryant.
Yeah, and I just want to say these 3 picks in a row: Arden Key, Nick Nelson, Maurice Hearst. These guys have excellent collegiate tape.
Yes.
And they fell in the draft, you know, injuries off the field. They fell for whatever reason, but getting these guys this late in the draft is excellent value for the Oakland Raiders. And again, trenches. We talking about trenches. This is more trenches for them. Maurice Hearst, he was dominant at Michigan, and Raiders up to something.
No,
man.
I agree. I think the point you just made, Headley, is very poignant.
Yeah.
Because you talk about those guys are foundational type players.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Nick Nelson isn't a blue chip prospect. He isn't. But he's the type of guy that has a skill set that leads to 8-10 year careers. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? You know, Hearst and Key,
they were dominant in college.
You know what I'm saying? And to me, the most important position group, the second most important position group outside of offensive line. Yeah. And we've already talked about the two draft picks that they invested there. So I think there is reason to be concerned about Jon Gruden based on his track record. I can understand why people aren't necessarily thrilled with the pick of Kolton Miller or Parker for that matter. They were both kind of reaches based on their floor, based on where their floor is kind of low. But what they did through the balance of this draft up to Maurice Hearst, I thought was impressive. I thought the Raiders did a really good job.
Round 6, they went linebacker Azim Victor, linebacker Washington.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his games. He's a good player. He just had a lot of off the field issues, Mr. DUI, and you know, linebacker was a position the Raiders desperately needed. They added 3 linebackers in free agency, so adding this young guy to the mix, if he could get his head on straight, you know, more depth at that position.
And the last pick, the Raiders selected Marcel Aitman.
The big guy. Mm-hmm. Y'all high on this guy? You got this guy? Aitman?
I just know he was big, red zone threat.
He's intriguing. You know,
how many receivers they got, man?
I mean, better that than what Gruden has done historically, which is collect quarterbacks. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, Jordan Nelson getting long in the tooth. You know, Amari he's struggled. I'm not saying Amari's going anywhere, but he's struggled. We need to see, I want to see, you know, Amari. I want to see the player that I think he can be. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping to see. Aitman isn't the ballyhooed guy James Washington was out of Oklahoma State, but considering his size, we got a chance to see him at the Senior Bowl. he's a decent prospect. We'll see. I think what he's going to have to do in order to crack this roster is make plays in special teams, particularly when you're drafted that late. I don't know that he's going to get an opportunity, a lot of opportunity to make plays on the offensive side of the ball. Number one, Gruden historically doesn't trust young players, particularly on offense. He doesn't trust young players, and it's a crowded receiver room. But I think Aitman has talent.
The thing with the receivers that I have a question about is you say they run this West Coast quick passing offense, but their receivers are vertical guys. Martavis Bryant, Jordy Nelson's been a vertical guy. Amari Cooper is more vertical, and then Aitman is a big guy, red zone threat. It's like, where are those West Coast top receivers?
I think Cooper is.
He can do it all.
Yeah, I think Cooper can do it all. Cooper just got to catch the football. That's all he has to do. I think he can do it all. Jordy had become a back shoulder deep threat. That's what he had become. I think Jordy has more to his game. I think he's craftier being a veteran. I think he'll be okay as a solid possession guy. He can be the Crabtree. He can be the Crabtree. Bryant is the wild card, and I think Jon has taken a lot of time to bounce around these organizations and pick from them and call games, whatever the case may be. I think they have a plan for Martavis Bryant. I think he's, even if I can see a scenario where Bryant only averages maybe 4 targets a game, but that's going to be the deep threat. That's the guy who they're gonna force you to respect their ability to stretch the field with him. You understand what I'm saying? Because he can get on top of guys. Plus, whether it be an end around or whatever the case may be, you want to just get the ball in his hands. You know what I'm saying? So it can be at any level, but Bryant isn't known for being a technician as far as being a route runner. I think he's going to be there for, we got a couple plays where we're going to force feed it to him, and we want him to stretch the field.
I'm going to take our shots.
Yeah.
He did have Joey Galloway when he was with the Bucks. He did have Antonio Bryant.
Bryant?
So those 2 guys get down the field, fast guys. So he kind of knows what to do with fast guys, just he can't have too many fast guys.
He get carried away?
No, because he couldn't get Galloway and Bryant on the field.
What happens is you have too many guys who do the same thing. And I understand that's where your concern is coming from. That is your question. It's a legitimate question, but again, I think we all can agree Cooper can do anything.
Anything, yeah.
Jordy, again, playing with Aaron became something else, which isn't a bad thing.
No, it's fine.
It doesn't mean that Jordy can't be a technician, can't make plays at every level. And frankly, as he's getting a little bit more advanced in age, coming off of the injury, he's not stretching the field like he used to. He's not. So.
Yeah. So when I look at the Raiders draft, to wrap this thing up, as a whole, obviously offensive line wise, it looks like they found their future, and the anchors left, right tackle, right left tackle, however you want to mix them up. And then you talk about the defense, and coming into this offseason, Raiders are marshmallowy, as we call it, up the middle, soft basically.
Yeah.
And it looks like they've handled that.
They've added a lot of talent defensively.
Yes.
They've added a lot of talent. There are question marks with just about everybody. As much as PJ Hall dominated, there's always going to be the question mark about small school level of competition.
You don't know.
Arden Key off the field. Maurice Hearst, his heart condition, health. Nick Nelson, health. Yeah.
All right, man. Raider Nation, man. CouchPotatoGM.com is the website. That's where the post is at. That's where we get a little bit more in depth. I guess you want to say about each player.
A little fantasy flavor in it too. Our actual draft grades.
Actual draft grades. Couch Potato General Manager is the YouTube channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Spread the word. Again, we want to talk about Jon Gruden, man. What is your take from what I've been told, or not told, but read? Raiders fans not happy. I'm familiar with Jon Gruden. I know him. We're not friends. We've never shaken hands, but I'm a Bucks fan, so I'm familiar with the guy. We might be on the same page there. Chop it up, man.
Yeah, like, comment, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel.